Millions of people watched the finale of 25/21, only to be met with a visceral, heartbreaking conclusion. When the screen finally faded to black, audiences were left feeling completely devastated as a bright, intense relationship suddenly extinguishes. The golden rule of the romance genre is the promise of a happily ever after. So why did millions of viewers fall in love with a show that deliberately shatters that exact promise? To understand the unique power of the series, we have to stop looking at it as a traditional love story. We need to view it as a meticulous study of human memory. Psychologically, retrospection is how our brains process and catalog our earliest passions. We look back at our first loves and biggest dreams, not as they actually happened, but through a highly emotional, nostalgic filter. The show's emotional weight rests on its accurate portrayal of a universal ache, the simultaneous pain and comfort of looking back at a past we can never return to. This Kospi board displays a severe stock market drop in 1998. South Korea was completely blindsided by the IMF crisis. Look at the blurry woman in the foreground. This collapse rippled downward, wiping out savings and devastating families overnight. You can see the desperation on the streets. Protesters held signs actively equating the acronym IMF to "I'm fired." The adult world was entirely consumed by mass unemployment, anger, and a sudden loss of livelihood. Trapped inside this pressure cooker are our two protagonists. A high school fencer suddenly loses her athletic team to severe budget cuts, and a young man is forced to navigate the sudden bankruptcy of his wealthy family. This historical event functions as a direct, active antagonist in the story. It acts as a force actively trying to steal their futures and truncate their youth before it even begins. By placing ordinary teenage dreams against a backdrop of sweeping national catastrophe, the story elevates a standard coming-of-age arc into an act of profound historical defiance. Look at these fencing strips. This is the physical arena where Nahido refuses to back down. Her relentless pursuit of her sport represents the beautiful, blind arrogance that youth requires to fight back against impossible odds. This brings us to a specific storytelling concept known as the catalyst relationship. Unlike a traditional romance blueprint that promises eternity, a catalyst relationship operates differently. Two distinct lives travel independently, only to converge tightly into a bottleneck of shared experience. The primary purpose of a catalyst is for two people to enter each other's lives, specifically to help one another survive a painful transition. Through this intense period, they exchange energy and provide the exact support the other desperately needs. The script builds their bond entirely on mutual inspiration. Rather than focusing solely on attraction, they teach each other how to endure their respective traumas. When they separate back onto their own paths, they carry that strength forward. Their romance is, at its core, a shared survival mechanism forged under the intense, suffocating pressure of the IMF era. A love story designed to save someone's life during a massive crisis often leaves a far heavier narrative impact than a love story designed simply to last forever. We watch the story unfold through a very specific framing device, an adult daughter reading her mother's old diaries on a modern desk in the present day. This diary structure explicitly tells us from the very first episode that this era of their lives is already over, injecting a constant underlying tension into every single happy moment. There is a sharp contrast between the vibrant, high-speed intensity of experiencing youth in the present and the sobering reality of looking back decades later. By utilizing this dual timeline, the show forces us to experience the unfolding relationship as a precious memory that is actively slipping through our fingers while we watch. That looming heartbreak perfectly replicates the exact inevitable grief we all experience when we realize we have outgrown our own youth. This brings us to the finale, where the characters ultimately go their separate ways. This separation marks the reality of the crisis coming to an end. As the characters became adults and stabilized, the specific survival mechanism they provided for each other reached its natural conclusion. Just because a relationship or a dream comes to an end does not mean it was a failure. These fleeting passions and early romances act as scaffolding. They're temporary, but they are entirely vital structures required to build the permanent adult identities we eventually inhabit. Once the building is finished, the scaffolding comes down. Rather than looking back at the catalysts in our own lives with regret over how they ended, we can view them with immense gratitude for what they built. If you have a story about a catalyst or a foundational memory from your own life, I'd love to read about it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribing helps us make more of them.